What oh, now look here. Welcome to my review of Why Didn't They Ask Evans, a 1934 whodunit from the master of such things, Agatha Christie. A vicar's son, Bobby Jones, finds a man at the bottom of some cliffs, arriving just in time to hear his cryptic last words, "Why didn't they ask Evans?" These words set in motion an investigation to discover how the man met his end and why. Bobby Jones is playing a round of golf with Dr. Thomas in a quiet Welsh village, not much of a golfer. When his ball disappears into the mist and he hears a man cry out, he assumes that the ball has hit him. What he finds instead is that somebody has fallen over the nearby cliffs, and though the golfers climb down to render assistance, they're too late. The man is dead. The doctor leaves to get the authorities, while Bobby stays with the body. The dead man is rather more alive than initially suspected, alive enough to utter, "Why didn't they ask Evans?" before he breathes his last. Bobby finds a picture of a beautiful young girl in the man's pockets before a stranger arrives on the scene, and as Bobby is supposed to be playing the organ in the church, he relieves him of his vigil. An inquest is held into the death, and Bobby's friend and local socialite Lady Frances, also known as Frankie, is most interested in the sudden arrival of gossip to the peaceful village. The dead man is identified as Alex Pritchard, courtesy of a photograph found in his pocket being tracked via the photographer to the dead man's sister. Though Bobby and Frankie quibble over the qualities of the girl in the photograph, Pritchard's death is ruled an accident, and his sister, along with her husband, seek out Bobby to thank him for his efforts on behalf of Alex and inquire as to whether he had had any last words. Initially, Bobby says he didn't, but later he remembers about Evans and writes them a letter. Bobby then receives a letter from the Pritchard family thanking him for his own letter, and he goes for a picnic. He wakes in the hospital in Frankie's good company, having taken a massive and ordinarily fatal opium overdose. The authorities put this down to a lunatic infecting his bottle of beer, which in truth is the sort of nonsense excuse that would only wash in a book, and which Agatha Christie mocks elsewhere in her back catalogue. After seeing that the picture used to locate Pritchard's sister was not the one that Bobby had found in his possession, he and Frankie begin musing on what the reasons for that might be. They conclude that the stranger that relieved him at the bottom of the cliff, identified in the inquest as Roger Basington French, must have swapped him, and they realise that the opium in his beer must have been a deliberate attempt on his life, with the only recent change in his otherwise amiable circumstances being the letter he sent to the Pritchard family. He and Frankie deduce that the logical explanation is that Pritchard must have been murdered as well, that Bobby is believed by the criminals to have information that threatens them. Locating Basington French in his Hampshire estate, the two stage an accident in order for Frankie to go undercover. This is likely the part of the story that Christie had the most fun writing. Bobby and Frankie have a lively back and forth as they sum up their plans, with Frankie buying 2 cars for the purpose of staging the crash. She explains that her own vehicle is rather too stately for the job. "The Bentley's no good for what I want it for." What's that? Smashing it up. A nice summation of their friendship and its power dynamics, which is thoroughly enjoyable throughout. In more recent times, a bumbling male lead, led by the nose by the more capable female, might well be a little tired, but Christie handles things capably, and in 1934 things were very different. Lady Frances, Frankie to her friends, is far from flawless, and they both offer good value. When George, helping stage the accident, takes her hat in order to lend the crash extra authenticity, her ladylike reaction is a throwaway line, but when the sensitivity readers get round to this book, I'd bet all my AdSense money it's given the chop. He took it and inflicted a terrific dent on it. Frankie gave a faint, anguished cry. This scene, one of the highlights of the book, is both a great character moment for Frankie and also demonstrates the light-hearted tone of the entire tale, exemplified by a passing delivery boy's reaction. "Ooh, he ejaculated. Has there been an accident?" "No," said George sarcastically. "The young lady ran her car into the wall on purpose." Frankie, taken in to recuperate with the Basington Frenches, learns that Roger lives with his brother Henry, who she believes is an opium addict, and his wife Sylvia. Frankie also meets the neighbours, Dr. Nicholson, who she immediately dislikes. Nicholson runs the nearby hospital for addicts, and his wife Moira seems permanently on edge around him. When Frankie shows them a photo of Alex Pritchard, Sylvia remarks that he looks like an acquaintance, Alan Carstairs. who was a mutual friend of the millionaire John Savage, who recently died in somewhat suspicious circumstances. Bobby, posing as Frankie's chauffeur, investigates Nicholson's clinic and bumps into Moira, who says she fears her husband Dr. Nicholson is trying to kill her. He recognises her as the girl in the original photograph. Frankie uses this information to quiz Roger, who admits he removed the photo of Moira in order to save her from a scandal. In the meantime, Henry Basington French, after being pressured into attending the dubious Nicholson clinic, takes his own life. Frankie leaves their estate and decides to investigate the circumstances around John Savage's death. Later, Bobby, investigating Nicholson's clinic again, is concerned by the doctor's slack approach to security. No tame pythons, thought Bobby, no cheetahs, no electrically charged wires. The man is shamefully behind the times. And he's then knocked unconscious. Sometimes the old ways are the best. Frankie, though, learns that John Savage was terrified of having cancer, and despite doctors saying he was fine, he was so convinced that he was dying, he took his own life. The main beneficiaries of his demise were the Templeton family. They suspect Carstairs, a friend of Savage, was unconvinced by the practical and cold-hearted Savage giving his money away or being so afraid of cancer as to ignore a doctor's diagnosis. She returns to find a letter from Bobby asking her to meet him at a secluded cottage. When she does, though, she finds him trussed up in the attic by Pritchard's killer. The two are captured, tied, and lamenting coming so close to solving the crime. They will need all their youthful resourcefulness or a minor miracle. And rather than giving away all of the ending, I will leave the plot there. It is a sparkling effort, characterised by the two leads, who are more bumbling than any of Christie's more famous sleuths. They dash from place to place, but their scattershot investigation usually involves little more than discussing events, and mostly with their upmarket peers, lawyers, doctors, and other gentlemen. If it seems unlikely that the village of Marchmont, Wales sports as many as 700 Evanses, too many to investigate individually, the rest is mostly convincing enough and delivered with so much energy that when it's not, it's easy to look beyond it. The tension and red herrings are handled adeptly, as you'd expect from Christie's more serious offerings, with suspicions laid against the innocent being easy to understand in the circumstances of the adventure here and explainable later in ways that, again, mostly convince. And as things build to a head, Christie raises the tension with a couple of hints that things are soon going to turn more serious and more dangerous. She was to repent her decision bitterly before 24 hours had passed. In truth, the only fault I'd offer is that much of the case hinges on the millionaire John Savage, who is mentioned fleetingly and is no more than a friend twice removed of any of the book's characters. Regardless, the two leads are sufficiently strong that the book would survive a far, far weaker plot and remain entertaining. Frankie is an absolute joy, and likely in the 30s would have been even more so. She's feisty, girly, quick-witted and intelligent, with a touch of naivety to ice it all off. When the plot seems a little improbable and Frankie waved away the wild improbability with an airy gesture, it fits both the tone and the character nicely. Later, when she starts running the rule just a little bit too much, Bobby quips, "Go on, Sherlock." But their relationship is more even than the Holmes-Watson dynamic. Bobby is more amiable and easier going than Frankie, but he's far from just a bumbling foil. And while the difference in class between them adds a complication, it is clear where they'll end up, and it's easy to root for as they work together to solve the mystery. In conclusion, two engaging leads and their entertaining relationship make Why Didn't They Ask Evans a good read. Their investigation is characterised by a lot of running around and a little bit of investigation. There are far less hunches involved, and where they are made, they're as likely right as wrong. The two are flawed but hugely compatible, and it makes for an enjoyable read. The mystery itself, powered by the enigmatic final question of a dying man, is a springboard for a plot that lags only slightly when Frankie lodges with the Basington French family, and really is only slightly. This is also the section of the book that is the most overtly comedic, so it's a delicate balance and again handled well. The final resolution is complicated, perhaps even convoluted, more so than its comedic trappings demand, but the final villain's litany of criminal superpowers is a bit much, but again, in keeping with the text's lighter tone. Why Didn't They Ask Evans is recommended. Thanks for watching. My books can be bought in paperback and Kindle via Amazon. Use the link in the description. Like and subscribe to the channel for more like this.